Good afternoon. Thank you all for tuning in to the Early Literacy Task Force Report panel discussion with the leaders of DC's Education Cluster. I am Janelle Bryant, Literacy Coach and Reading Interventionist at DC Public Schools. We are live streaming on Channel 16, Facebook, and Twitter. This presentation will be available at Mayor.dc.gov following this presentation. Earlier this month, the Early Literacy Task Force, led by the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, released its report, Recommendations for Structured Literacy Instruction in the District of Columbia. This report is the culmination of 10 months of work by representatives from the DC Council, OSSE, the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Education, the DC State Board of Education, District of Columbia Public Schools, the DC Public Charter School Board, and public charter schools. We are coming to you live from DC Prep Anacostia Elementary School, and we want to thank the team here for their hospitality and letting us host this event. On today's panel, we have Deputy Mayor Paul Kine, State Superintendent of Education Dr. Christina Grant, Chancellor Dr. Louis Farabee, Public Charter School Board Executive Director Dr. Michelle Walker Davis, and the State Board of Education Ward 2 Representative Alistair Chang. Before we dive into our panel discussion, we're going to hear an overview of the report from Elizabeth Ross, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning at the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. Elizabeth is a member of the task force and oversees educational professional development, including our Science of Reading trainings at OSSE.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Elizabeth Ross, and I am proud to serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning at OSSE. I was also proud to serve as a member of the Early Literacy Education Task Force, and I am thrilled to be here with you today to review recommendations for structured literacy instruction in the District of Columbia. Next slide, please. In fall 2022, the DC Council passed the Structured Literacy Action Plan Act of 2022. Through the enactment of this legislation, the task force was established. The task force was comprised of representatives from across the DC educational landscape, demonstrating interagency and intergovernmental commitment to improving literacy outcomes in the district through structured literacy implementation. Per the International Dyslexia Association, structured literacy is an approach to literacy instruction that is rooted in the science of reading, that emphasizes highly explicit and systematic teaching for the critical components of literacy, including both foundational skills and high-level literacy skills. Next slide, please. We are grateful to the members of the Early Literacy Education Task Force who dedicated time to meet and share their insights and expertise. I want to give a special thank you to all of the members of the Literacy Task Force, including Representative Alistair Chang, who is here with us this afternoon and has been a strong advocate for literacy education here in DC. Because we're coming to you live from DC Prep, I also want to recognize Mary Pendleton, the Director of Humanities at DC Prep, for her active engagement in the task force. Next slide, please. The Early Literacy Education Task Force was legislatively charged with delivering a report to the Mayor and Council outlining an actionable plan to address a variety of topics related to literacy instruction. Next slide, please. Now I will provide an overview of the recommendations for structured literacy instruction outlined in the report. Next slide, please. Through deliberative sessions, the task force came to consensus on 4 primary recommendations for literacy instruction. The first and second recommendation broadly cover competency in structured literacy for teachers and school-based administrators. The third recommendation focuses on on-the-job support for teachers, and the fourth recommendation addresses curricular materials. In conjunction with each other, these primary recommendations provide a holistic approach to literacy instruction that will provide teachers with the knowledge and skills they need to ensure all DC students become competent, confident, and joyful readers. These recommendations are intended to support and improve Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction. Next slide, please. The first recommendation addresses teacher competency and structured literacy. Overall, this recommendation requires all teachers working with students in grades K through grade 5, including general education teachers, English learner teachers, reading specialists and interventionalists, and all special educators working with students in grades K through 12 to demonstrate competency in structured literacy through multiple pathways. This recommendation has 6 subparts representing the complexity and nuance required to ensure educators are well trained in a phased implementation approach. Recommendations 1.1 through 1.6 address both the content and logistical requirements to ensuring all of the required educators meaningfully receive the training that they need and are able to demonstrate competency in structured literacy. Next slide, please. In addition to the groups of educators outlined in Recommendation 1, the task force further recommends a structured literacy competency requirement for school-based administrators who are directly responsible for managing and evaluating educators. Next slide, please. The third recommendation addresses on-the-job support for educators. While training on structured literacy is critical for educators, balancing this training with implementation support is necessary to ensure teacher and ultimately student success. To do this, the task force recommends 2 actions. First, the task force recommends developing a non-evaluative standardized walkthrough tool for structured literacy instruction to support teachers and administrators with aligning on look-fors and outcomes for instruction. Second is the development of a pilot program for literacy coaches, in which OSSI will recruit, hire, and train coaches to work directly with schools. Next slide, please. The final recommendation addresses high-quality and culturally responsive literacy curricula rooted in the science of reading. On this topic, the task force recommends action toward transparency as well as clear support for schools. Recommendation 4.1 outlines a proposed plan for OSSI to collect and publish information from all LEAs across the district regarding the literacy curricula being used in classrooms. Recommendation 4.2 proposes that OSSI develop and maintain a list of high-quality instructional materials. In conjunction, these 2 recommendations fully address both the need for understanding what is being used to teach our students and provide a plan for supporting schools in making strong curricula selections. Next slide, please. The task force did not complete this work in isolation. Instead, the recommendations of the task force were informed by data collected from a variety of stakeholders, including teachers, school leaders, researchers, parents, and community members, through a survey that was conducted in spring 2023 and represented all 8 wards of our city. Next slide, please. If you are interested in more information, or if you would like to view the full report, please visit ossi.dc.gov/literacy task force. I am now pleased to turn things back to an exceptional educator, Janelle Bryant, and the esteemed panel.
Thank you. All right, this question is for all panelists. As educational leaders in DC, why is it so critical to focus on literacy instruction and professional development? You each have 2 minutes to respond. Superintendent Grandin, we'll start with you.
Oh, 2 minutes. That's not enough time. First, I am really proud for this moment and for us to all be together. So truly, it's a great day to celebrate literacy across the district. We're beaming at each other because we've been talking about this for some time. This is all done under the great leadership of Mayor Bowser and her continued commitment to both education and literacy in the district. And before I give my response, I do have to brag on you some more, Janelle. Aside from Janelle being a literacy coach at DCPS, she has been with DCPS for 10 years, serving as a teacher at Seton Elementary and a family engagement facilitator. But in 2021, we met Janelle when we named her as the 2021 Milken Educator, which is affectionately known as the Oscars of teaching. That's not just an acknowledgement in name. Janelle received a $25,000 investment for her commitment to education, and she spent the year and continues to spend the year being a representative of excellence in teaching and education and truly is the best of the district. I'm like giddy to see that you have shifted from the classroom into a leadership role inside DCPS. It's the vision for what we want all of our educators here, and so it's humbling to sit here with you. The district is fortunate to have great teachers. Just this week, we named our 2024 Teacher of the Year, Beth Barkley at Cardozo Educational Campus. We are just getting to see the exceptional aspects of who she is, how she's passionate about her craft. And our own very own literacy specialist also came from DCPS. Thank you, Chancellor. As she led her school, Dorothy Height Elementary School, towards shifting their literacy practices before joining and leading literacy at the Office of the State Superintendent for Education. And so again, the work is critical, and I hope you all are seeing this through line between practices inside the classroom that then allow our teachers to lead and drive our system. It's passionate to me because, fun fact, I was an English language arts teacher and a literacy coach. There is no art to reading. It truly is a science. And we are excited today to really talk about the importance of literacy, the deep investments we want to make in the district, and again, humbled to be with all of my colleagues hearing today our recommendations that we do think are critical first steps for some, next steps for others, to think about the way that not only do we train our educators on how to meet their students' needs, but we give our educators all of the tools that they need in their toolbox to be the best in their classroom for their children and to leverage best practice in teaching and learning. It's critical to us, for all of us English teachers in the room. Really grateful to be here today. And again, Janelle, congratulations. I hope you feel the magnitude of what started in the classroom with your littles, and now you are leading through an entire school system. I think I turn things to the Deputy Mayor next. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Superintendent. And thank you, Janelle. Why is this work important? It probably goes without saying that this work is important because nothing is more important in our city than our children. And there are very few things more important to our children and their joy and their productive pathways than learning how to read. And so we've got to take what we already know how to do. And this is one of the core insights, I think, from this report. We know how to do this. We know how to teach reading in our children. And it is our obligation to do this. So we are here to celebrate this path, our educators like Janelle, the knowledge that we know how to do this, and ensure we continue the fine work that we've already begun. That's why this is important.
Thank you. Dr. Walker-Davis?
Thank you, Janelle. I say for me it's pretty simple as well. As our students become more competent in literacy, quite frankly, their whole world opens up. The superintendent said it, the deputy mayor said it, literacy is really the building block for other skills. It is very hard to master content in other areas if you don't have the basic literacy skills necessary to engage with that content. And that is both inside and outside of the classroom. So for me, that's the foundation. It's a building block. And what this report has revealed and the work that we've been doing over time has really revealed that if we create conditions where we're providing high quality training for teachers and administrators and we're investing in that ongoing professional development, our teachers are going to have the tools to enable that effective instruction. So I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today, really because this is a fundamental pathway to robust learning opportunities for all of our students.
Thank you for that. Chancellor Farabee?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be with my colleagues. Like many of my colleagues, I'm an educator and consider myself a teacher first. My journey actually started as a college student, volunteering at a local elementary school where I taught a student how to read, and it changed my major from biology to elementary education, but also changed my life trajectory. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for us to come together as a collective. I think about when we're our best, it is truly a village effort. And so I think all of the entities here coming together around this important topic. As my colleague said, this is a critical foundation of how students perform in mathematics, how they learn concepts around science and social studies, and so we want to ensure that we're giving them that leg up. But what I'm even more excited about is this is an opportunity to go deeper into utilizing our number one asset, and that's our educators. And so this idea that there is rich professional development opportunity, Deputy Mayor Kine said it well, we know what needs to be done. Dr. Grant mentioned that this is the science, and I'm really grateful to have opportunity to go deeper with my colleagues around the science of reading to ensure that our educators are prepared to deliver on greatness in the classroom for our young people. And I think when we invest in our educators, we invest in our students' future, in our city, and I think it's a way to ensure that the vitality of the city remains strong.
Thank you for that, Representative Chen.
So early in my term, a parent came to me and said, Alistair, I thought my son was doing fine. He was getting A's on his assignments, and his teacher said he was doing great. And it wasn't until we got his standardized score back, test score back, that we learned he wasn't reading at grade level. And we had missed years of opportunity to do something because we didn't know. She was devastated. I was devastated hearing that. And it's still the reality for too many families in DC. Because at the end of the day, without learning how to read by 4th grade, the rest of your academic career is incredibly burdensome. You have to learn how to read in order to read to learn. And it's not just a test score, right? The work of literacy is about empowering people to live the lives of their choosing. It's about enabling DC students to be able to fluently navigate the world around them. And in this way, structured literacy and the recommendations of this task force are really an equity issue.
Thank you all for that. This next one is for Dr. Grant. OSSE doesn't directly teach students how to read, yet it was tasked with this convening this task force. And so what is the state education agency's role in advancing literacy outcomes in the district?
The chancellor ever wants to let me teach English? I am a certified English teacher. No, I think the best part about playing this role in the state, most state education agencies really serve as a policymaker and function in this, and so we get to create the conditions for our teachers to thrive. And we do this in a multiple set of ways. The goal is to have joyful readers. When I was a teacher, I used to say that literature is life, and it made all the math folks, a little grumpy, but, literacy is the foundation of it all. And we work to improve the literacy ecosystem in several ways. One, you've heard us say quite intentionally, we work really hard to promote the science of reading and make sure that our teachers have access to high-quality professional development options for training. And we work to ensure that our teachers have the time to take those trainings and that they receive compensation when they do so. Work that occurs behind the scenes for us that's critically important is we have required all of our educator preparation providers to demonstrate that their programs meet our standards for the science of reading. And so as folks are going through the programs within the district, they come into the profession trained, and while our educators are in the program or in their classrooms, they have access to high quality professional development. We leverage our learning management system to ensure that our educators, again, at their time, at their pace, have access to engaging professional development that improves their praxis. I have said this to the chancellor. I will say it to everyone here. We are so excited about the movement we're seeing around dyslexia awareness and the science of reading. To date, 12,034 educators have registered for this training, and over 10,000 educators have completed the training. And so Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Walker Davis. It's just one proof point that tells us as a system, our teachers are excited about having access to high quality professional development. They want to be trained in the science of reading. They want to know all of the miscues that you will see with the little learner that tells you, something's going on here. And not only I've had the noticing, but I actually know how to intervene. I know how to provide additional support. And like Janelle, you and I know, you do a DRA assessment, you learn a lot. We're just excited to see the numbers of participation for our educators, which tells us that these recommendations will be welcomed across our system, because educators have already shown us to the tune of over 10,000 that they've already gotten trained in dyslexia and they're ready to take their craft further. The work that we do across DCPS and our public charter schools, along with our state board, under the guidance of Mayor Bowser, is truly representative of what cities and cities that should be states should be doing when we align on a topic as critical as literacy instruction. And I'm really excited and humbled to see the evidence in terms of what our teachers have shown us in terms of their professional development training, and what we are announcing today should be possible and should be in practice for all of our educators.
I can appreciate what you said about literacy is life, and we are definitely grateful for OSSI's work. Dr. Walker Davis, what does a focus on and investment in literacy look like for DC charter schools? How can we ensure students across a variety of school environments are receiving high quality literacy instruction? And you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Janelle. As many of you have heard me say, and as I will say again, in our city, we have the unique and wonderful opportunity to have 69 different local education agencies that are charter schools, which in effect means we have 69 school districts in addition to our one traditional school district. And so from our seat as the authorizer, we want to make sure that there are policy conditions that allow each of those schools to do what they are uniquely positioned to do, and that there is some consistency and foundation in terms of what we're talking about today. So for us, a focus on literacy investment looks like continued interagency collaboration between us as a public charter school board, between OSSI here and many of the other agencies, to ensure that every charter school and every elementary teacher within the charter schools have access to this high-quality instruction, right? So how are we making sure that those dots are connected? How do we make sure that there is both information about the resources and possibilities, as well as follow-on and insurance that there's compliance with what is those expectations are? So we're really excited from the DC Public Charter School Board side to align OSSI's compliance structures for training and screening requirements with our protocols as well, to think more clearly about what that investment looks like at the individual school site, and to determine if there's any clarity or barriers that we need to help get out of the way. And it also looks like triangulating the academic achievement data that we are looking at in terms of outcomes with the compliance data that we see. Who's accessing the training? Is there a distinction between those who have accessed the training and the outcomes that we see and those who have not? And so for us at the authorizer seat, we are a little ways away from the actual implementation on the day-to-day basis, but I do think that there are lots of opportunities to lean into the great collaboration that's already been built and the structures that have already been in existence for follow-up and compliance and resource allocation.
Thank you for that. Alignment is definitely key. Chancellor Farabee, what are you hearing from educators about the challenges they face when teaching literacy? How is DCPS addressing those challenges now, and how will these recommendations address the challenges in the future? You have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you. Let me tell you what I did here is Dr. Grant is ready to come into DC public schools and teach English. That's what I heard. What I hear often, and it's interesting, this was a topic of my teacher advisory, and we met yesterday evening. It's just a wide variance of needs in literacy for our students in the classroom, particularly where teachers are committed to ensure that every student gets what they need. And we know that they come at various levels and various experiences. And so we are working to ensure that there is a deep understanding of how to respond in those scenarios where you have that wide variance. Now, what's great about our next steps in response to that is it is very much so aligned with what's in the report. If you look in the report, there is a very clear anchor around the 3 tiers of literacy. And for DC Public Schools, what that means for us is we can go deeper with ensuring from Tier 1 that our cluster support model, our centralized supports provide not only educators but students and administrators the context, the information, and the tools and resources they need to be successful. And then extending out to Tier 3, where we have our most intensive support, it allows us to deepen our work with strategies such as the Literacy Lab and the Reading Clinic. And then we have the monumental investments from Mayor Bowser in our high-impact tutoring, which allows us to provide one-on-one or small group instruction. And I think that is where we get really excited, especially knowing that DCPS has a clear, response and prescription for intervention, but also when students need more time on various concepts in literacy. So excited that we're so aligned with the report and look forward again to working with our colleagues here.
Thank you for that. As a DCPS educator, I'm excited about the response. Representative Chang, why is now the right time to make these critical investments in literacy? Why was the task force focused on structured literacy rather than balanced literacy? You have 3 minutes to respond.
So in my role on the DC State Board of Education, I have had the opportunity to speak with over 100 reading instructors across the district to learn from their experiences and to hear their recommendations. And over again, I heard that many reading instructors had never learned how to teach reading. And across the U.S., right, there's a false assumption that if you know how to read, you also know how to teach reading. And over again, I had heard, I would love to learn, but it's just too expensive. And so in this way, I get really excited about the recommendations that we've put out because, and its focus on structured literacy, because it really stems from asks by educators. And why now? In DC, like most other places across the U.S., 2022 saw a decline from 2019 in literacy outcomes. Here in our nation's capital, only 26.49% of students tested at or above proficient in 4th grade reading. That means 73.51% of students did not. That's 73.5% of our students did not. The pandemic was devastating for our students, and by implementing the task force recommendations now, we actually have an opportunity to seriously improve how we educate our students.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Kine, what will it take to make these recommendations a reality? How do these recommendations build upon the district's effort to make DC a teaching oasis?
Thanks for that question. And I think not for the first time, I will simply repeat less eloquently what Dr. Walker Davis, Chancellor Farabee, Superintendent Grant, and Board Member Chang have already said in this regard. I feel like these recommendations will only be a reality so long as all of us remain all in. The strong commitment from our mayor, the deep collaboration and coordination represented, I think, by today's panel, by the work of the task force, the incredible commitment of our educators like Janelle has got to continue. We have to collectively shepherd our energy around this important undertaking and goal in order for us to remain and be successful. There are so many distractions in this fine world of education in which we live, and we have got to remain focused on this as vital and critical. Part of that focus has also got to be a sustained and deep appreciation for the complex work and craft of teaching, what teachers do every day. We need to honor that complex work and, as proposed in this report, ensure that teachers have the skill building and skill sustaining supports that are required to undertake this.
Thank you. What you said was powerful. All of us remain all in. So thank you for that. Okay, so this is for everyone. 5 years from now, what do you hope to be true about student literacy skills in the District of Columbia? Each of you have 2 minutes to respond. Superintendent Grant, can we start with you?
Oh, why do I go first? I think, I said it earlier, literacy truly is life. I talk often about being a first-generation college graduate of 2 parents. My mother graduated from high school, but my father did not. Every day, they dropped us off at school expecting for a fundamental thing to occur, for me to learn how to read. And through those books, though never having gotten on a plane until I was 18, books took me to different countries, helped me understand different pathways. I saw versions of myself, or even these little books behind us. They serve as doors and mirrors, windows and mirrors for our children. And so the 5 years from now, next year from now, 6 months from now, I want us to continue to, have the rally cry around the importance of learning how to read and the importance for our educators to be deeply trained. It cannot be too expensive to ensure that our teachers know how to teach children how to read. We have incredible, exceptional teachers across the district, both in DCPS and in our public charter schools. But in order for them to thrive, to be inspired, to live in an oasis, they have to ensure that when they look up and say, I need additional training, I want additional support, I want to get better, that we are right standing alongside them, helping them get better. It's a continuum in this work. And I do hope we are all sitting here together. We came together to engage in this report. We're going to have to rally together as we navigate twists and turns to make these recommendations reality. But I really do echo the deputy mayor. It's all of us all in together. 5 years from now, not only do I want to see proficiency rates increase, but I want more children knowing how to read, falling in love with reading. It really has to be that. I want children to want books more than they want Roblox. That's what I want. And I want our educators committed to their practice, growing to and through the profession, knowing that their system ensures that they have the training that they need in order to get things right for our children.
Thank you. 5 years from now, Deputy Mayor, what will it look like for you?
I am with you, Superintendent Grant, 100%. I want our schools and our homes to be bursting with reading. I want to hear the sounds of young people sounding out letter sounds and diphthongs and all the other wonderful things they need to learn, including, by the way, my own 4-year-old who is hard at work on this this weekend. And in order for this to be true, we just all still have to be here. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm echoing you, Superintendent Grant. In other words, we all have to continue to be at this table. And we have to be working on this as a vital body of work. And we can't have moved on.
Thank you. Dr. Walker Davis.
So 5 years from now, armed with the recommended professional development that we are talking about in the task force, we should, quite frankly, be able to see the impact. Mm-hmm. And the impact not only of the legislation, but as we've talked about, the interagency collaboration that's going to be necessary to implement that. And quite frankly, we want to see improved literacy outcomes. That's for all of our students, including students at risk, including students with literacy challenges right now, including our students with disabilities and our emerging multilingual learners. So we should be able to be talking about impacts, huge impacts 5 years from now, and not just in, again, the outcomes, but in our behaviors. And as the Deputy Mayor said, we will learn things over the next 5 years about what it takes to really lean in and accomplish this big task. We'll learn things about not just what teachers are saying they need, but quite frankly, how our systems are changing to respond. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited for us to be feeling big outcomes at our 5-year reunion.
Chancellor Farabee.
My colleagues have said it so well. I think that just draws me back to this alignment. So I hope it's true that 5 years from now that, people are looking at DC as the bellwether, right? We all came together as a collective effort around literacy. But I think that plays out in ways that my colleagues described. First, we want students to succeed academically. I think that's obvious. But secondly, I want to go back to Dr. Grant's point about students seeing themselves and love for literacy. And for me, I think that shows up as students feeling connected to school. And there's a strong sense of identity. And for me, I think about the DC Public Schools Readers Next Door. Like, I want the next iteration of that. I want to continue to blow that out, and we're bullish about it. We have our Readers Next Door, often referred to as the quotables, but they're written by our educators, they're illustrated by our educators, but more importantly, they represent the communities that the students are in. They see themselves, and so it's just great to see students reading a book and they see the big chair here in Anacostia, right? That's huge, right? And so I think it's important that we continue that path, and then ultimately students are ready for what's next. And that's from pre-K to kindergarten, that's from elementary to middle school to high school, and ultimately post-secondary success with college and career.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Representative Chang.
Great. I want to repeat what the deputy mayor said around all of us remaining all in. I think this panel, bringing education leaders together from across the city, really emphasizes the commitment of our city, of our nation's capital, to literacy. And that will be our recipe for success and how we will do right by our students 5 years from now. I really think that it's by working together and building these recommendations as a comprehensive set of recommendations for the entire city that has been our strength. And what I'm most proud of is it's not been piecemeal, it's not been ad hoc, it's been coordinated, it's been intentional. And when we work together, we can really amplify one another's impact. And getting into the weeds here, training teachers alone doesn't move the needle if administrators aren't engaged and on board. It doesn't work if they don't have the aligned curriculum to use. It doesn't work if we don't have the aligned screeners and assessments. It doesn't work if we don't have the support systems in place to get students to show up to class on time, to have had enough food to eat and sleep the night before. And it doesn't work if our students don't feel safe. It doesn't work if, educators don't feel like they're properly supported. But it does work when we do the work together. And it does work when we acknowledge the unique role that each of us here and all the educators across the district have to play to make this happen. And so I'll end by repeating what I said earlier. I think when I dream about 5 years from now, where we are, it's that more DC students, and I think this is particularly important to me as the child of immigrants who moved from Taipei to DC, that more DC students are equipped to fluently navigate the world around them.
Thank you all for your responses. I cannot wait to see what literacy education looks like in 5 years. A call line for this event was set up and is now live and began taking calls at 12:30 p.m. So we're going to jump into some questions. The first one is for Chancellor Farabee. Why is it so important to include school-based leaders in structured literacy competencies?
Thank you for that question. I think it was mentioned, in the previous Dream and Hope about the future, how important it is to have administrators be a part of the learning, as they are our primary resource for instructional leadership. They're often giving our educators feedback, and we want to ensure that they're giving them the best and most knowledgeable feedback possible. And we want our principals to be the chief instructional leaders on their campuses. And so I think it's really important that they're deep into the strategy, but also can lead professional development at their schools as well, in addition to what we're providing centrally.
Thank you for that. The next question that came in is for Superintendent Grant. Can you talk about the potential process for reviewing curriculum?
Oh, sure. It builds on a lot of what Representative Chang was sharing. One, I love that you're beaming because we did it. We've had lots of conversations on how we ensure that this work is not piecemeal and that it is comprehensive. And should just name for everyone, this work is building off of deep investments that we've already been making in literacy through our comprehensive literacy state plan. That was a $16 million investment that is playing out and it's concluding at the end of this year, which is why you're hearing us talk about a deeper investment and talking about that investment playing out over the next 5 years. It would be remiss if I didn't name that all of what got us to this point was around having aligned screeners for curriculum models. That's why I can give you these amazing data points in dyslexia. We didn't just tell our educators that they had to be trained in dyslexia. We screened providers. We created a list of approved providers. Then we made those options available through our learning management system. And then we compensated our educators as they completed them. That's the type of systemic investment that literally just allowed us to move the needle on dyslexia. Now we're seeking to deepen that work, and that will involve, and newsflash to everyone, we will be collecting and screening curriculum resources, materials, and options for our educators, and then providing back through a free source, probably our learning management system, options for all of our educators across the district that if they say, I need a high quality instructional material to deploy in our classrooms, those resources will live at the state education agency. That's the next wave of this work. It's the training of our teachers through professional development options, but also putting resources in their hands. And again, to the teachers in the room, you're only as strong as your lesson plan. Your lesson plan is only as strong as its alignment to the standards and the curriculum models of your system. We have to play a deeper role of navigating that work so that magic or science occurs in the classroom.
Thank you for that. I would like to just kind of reiterate some things that I've heard and also some points that I would just like to share. I definitely agree with Representative Chang that literacy is an equity issue and our students, particularly in the district, deserve quality instruction, literacy instruction rooted in research, and that is what this task force was about, is really finding a way to bring that to the classrooms. As an educator and someone who is in classrooms all day, I can see the power of informed teachers who are using research to support their instruction and how it plays out in different data sources and points that we analyze on a regular basis. The research and data does not lie. It supports an explicit and systematic structure to phonics-based literacy instruction. And so I just applaud and appreciate from the classroom all of the work that came in throughout these past few years to ensure that our students are getting it and our teachers feel comfortable with the content that is being put in front of them. Somebody told me that you always want a why behind what you're doing, and I think it's very clear that we have a why and we have a purpose, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. With that being said, this closes out our conversation today. Thank you for joining us. You can find more information about the Early Literacy Task Force report at OSSI.dc.gov. We thank all of our students, our families, educators, and community members for watching. This conversation will be recorded and posted on OSSI's website at ossi.dc.gov/literacy task force and across OSSI, DME, DCPS, PCSB, and SBOE social media channels. Thank you. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.